welcome to Write Your Story. I am Julie Pennell, and this is the very first episode of my new video series where I get to chat with my favorite authors about their journey to publishing. And today I am joined by the lovely Georgia Clark, whose new novel, It Had to Be You, is coming out on May 4th, and I absolutely love it. So let's talk. Hi, Georgia.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm really happy to be here.
So for anyone who's not familiar with Georgia's long list of achievements, let me just go through a couple. This is her 5th novel. And you probably have heard about her other adult novels, The Regulars and The Bucket List, which have been very critically acclaimed, and also you've probably seen them in magazines like People and Cosmopolitan. And Georgia is also the founder of Generation Women, which is a monthly storytelling night in New York City, and they're actually having their first live show in May 13th. Is that right?
Yeah, May 13th.
Well,
yeah.
Not first live show, but first since the pandemic.
Correct.
So yeah, you can get tickets and find out more at generationwomen.us. So yeah, this is really exciting. You know, it's funny that you're the first, it's perfect that you're the first guest on this show because you were also the first author friend that I made after I got my book deal. And you kind of took me under your wing and you were my mentor and kind of showed me the way. So I'm really excited to chat.
Well, nothing but a pleasure. I'm so happy that we're friends.
Yeah. So this show is, the goal is to inspire others to get out, like put pen to paper and write their own novel or story that they've been wanting to write. So I want to know your journey into writing and how you got started, little Georgia, and how you decided to write your first novel.
Okay, well, buckle up because everyone's path to publication, as we say, is different, and mine, again, unique. So I always wanted to be a writer. I was a writer from a very young age. I wrote stories. I was always very excited about the idea of having a, creative life. And originally that was when I was kind of younger, an actor, then it became a filmmaker. I went to school for screenwriting and filmmaking. I made a couple of very bad short films, poured all of my savings into them while my other friends were buying real estate in Sydney. Hot tip. I mean, probably if I could do anything again differently, maybe do that. But was like learning a lot and having a lot of fun, which is sort of one of the, I think, greater goals of writing, is to try to figure out a way to enjoy yourself while you're doing it, because it is hard. But throughout my 20s, I was really pursuing a career in screenwriting, and I was freelancing for different magazines. I used to freelance for basically the Australian version of 17 magazine, which is called Girlfriend magazine. And they were releasing a standalone line of young adult fiction. So Girlfriend branded fiction, but all different young adult stories. So it wasn't a series with on like the same characters every time, all different standalone novels. And they asked their community of writers and their favorite freelancers to pitch an idea. And I'd never thought about writing a book before. I was in my late 20s, but I was, just saying yes to everything. So I was like, sure, I'll pitch something. So I, over the course of a weekend, just wrote out a simple 3-page outline for a story about a young girl who was 16, who starts a band with 2 of her best friends. It was sort of modeled on a band I was in my 20s and the personalities of my 2 best friends. And they said, yeah, you can write that. And I was like, great. Wait, what? I had no idea how to write a novel. I never really thought about writing a novel. They gave me 4 months, which at the time seemed like a lot of time because I was used to sort of like 2-week deadlines, for articles.
Right.
But in retrospect was really not a very long time at all. Compounded by the fact I also had a 1-month trip to Europe planned in that time. And I was like, no worries, I'll start on the road. I'll be writing in the hostels in Paris. Of course, I didn't do a thing in Europe except like, explore and get drunk on European beer or whatever. And so I got back, and now I had 3 months to write a book, and really freaked out, and had no idea what to do. And then really just sort of worked out the amount of words I need to write every day to make a 50,000 word novel, which is what it was, and sat down and would just diligently type out my 1,000 words. And in the end, cobbled together a novel. It was very simple and sweet. So I wrote another YA that didn't sell, took me a year, but I got an agent out of it. I wrote another young adult. I sort of switched genres to science. It was like the Hunger Games that just came out. I was obsessed with the Hunger Games, as we all were. I wrote a sci-fi action adventure set in a world without water. It was sort of like this tough, gritty, lots of to do with robots and AI.
So like the future of America and the world.
Yeah, the terrible future that we're all sort of heading down to.
Right.
Sort of was like, I have to do this again, but smarter, better, and I have to aim higher. So for my next book, which ended up becoming The Regulars, the first thing I did, which was the smartest thing I did, which is always my number one piece of advice, was I hired a developmental editor. A common thing that people also do is work with a freelance editor or a developmental editor prior to submission to get your work really polished and good, and to push you further than you can achieve on your own. I also read more widely in my genre. My agent's number one piece of advice for writers, and the thing that she feels consistently surprised by, is the amount of writers who submit to her who aren't reading widely in their current genre. I created a writing community around me. I didn't have the connections and the network.
And that's what I love about you too. I love that about you, that you just I feel like I learned that from you, is just this community that is out there, and meeting other people and learning from other authors is a huge part as well. And I feel like you do that so well.
Well, it's so in your head, but there's lots of things that you can do. And one of them is create a writing community. It doesn't need to be a 1,000-person writing community, but it can be even just starting with a small group of people who all have the same agenda, which is probably to get published, to become a better writer, to make connections.
And you can do that anywhere. It doesn't have to be New York City. If you're in, Texas or Ohio or wherever.
Absolutely.
There's writers everywhere that, want to meet up. And
And even if I don't, achieve X, Y, Z on my list, what I can achieve is these lasting friendships with other writers who want to do the same thing I want to do. And that is very meaningful to me. And that is something that's in your control.
I love that. And it is true that you do have to have that in mind of, this book might not sell. My first attempts, it was 20,000 words, and I've literally threw it in the trash. And I know that you did that with this book. With It Had to Be You had a draft of 25,000 words, and you sold it, but then you just got rid of it and started over. What was that about?
Yeah, I had 25,000 words, partial manuscript, that we sold it off. And I was having a drink with my agent, Alison, afterwards, and we were, in Vino Veritas, the truth comes out over wine. And I just had the sense that she didn't love it, and that her heart wasn't really in it, even though we'd sold it.
Right.
And we had the premise of the mismatch. It's the premise of the book is a mismatched pair of wedding planners, and 5 modern love stories, including them, revolve around this business in Brooklyn. And that was sort of intact, but the tone was very different. It didn't have the 5 love stories. It was more focused on the main character, and it was much darker. In writing, you have to really pick your North Stars. You have to pick the people that you're going to listen to, because you can get a lot of advice if you want. And one of the people that I think that you have to listen to, because if not, you're in the wrong relationship, is your agent.
Right.
If your agent sort of says, I think you should do this, you really want to think about, if you're not going to do that, why not? Because you're probably wrong. So let me tell you, editing is really hard. Throwing work out is really hard. You know this to be true, but it is part of the process. And you really have to sort of see your writing as like it's moldable clay. You might have to sort of throw it out and start again, but you're not losing as much as you think you are.
Totally, totally. And I feel like first drafts are always kind of shaky anyway. And, I call them practice drafts because,
Yeah.
it's not the same. Like when you go back, when I go back and look at my first drafts for the books that got published, like they're nothing the same, I feel like you have to go in with that knowing, that things can be changed, and they should, because that's what a draft is, right? If it was perfect, then it wouldn't be a draft, it would be a published book. So
yeah, I think every writer wants to send in their first draft for notes and get back the feedback of like, oh, it's perfect, don't change a thing, there's one typo on page 57, but apart from that, you're done. And that never happens.
So one of the other stories that I love about this book is that you met a wedding photographer in an Uber pool, and kind of like just took her out to lunch and made connections, and used her as a source because this book is obviously about wedding planning.
I just picked her brain. She connected me to a couple of other wedding planners who I then started to interview. There's no job description for a novelist, right? Like the brief is write a book, and how you do that, well, that's up to you. So you get to kind of make up your own rules. And who says you can't just take someone out for lunch and pick their brain and whatever. So that, and to me, that's again part of the fun. And so much of this is just like me identifying, what do I like, what's pleasurable for me, okay, I want to do that.
And it's also like writing is so solitary anyway, so to be able to reach out to people and like have them as part of your story, I think is really fun. Yeah, well, this has been really fun. I'm super excited for your launch. You're doing launch at, I just saw Books Are Magic on May 4th with Ellen Hildebrand.
Yes, the one and only.
Amazing. Who I literally just started 28 Summers this morning. I know I'm so behind, but
I finished it, and it made me cry at the end.
I already started, like I got like teary-eyed just in the first chapter. I was like, what? How? I don't know. How did she do that? I mean, it wasn't supposed to be, but I got emotional. So anyway, I'm super excited for that. I will be in attendance.
Thank you.
It's online, right? Yeah.
Yes, online. And then
I will be in attendance online, not in person.
Yeah. Oh, and then we have another virtual event on the 5th with the Ripped Bodice. I'm in conversation with Hannah Orenstein.
Yes. So people can find out all about all of that on your website and on your Instagram, which is just Georgia Clark. Was that right?
My website is georgiaclark.com and Instagram is Georgia Lou Clark.
Georgia Lou Clark. I forgot the Lou. All right. Thank you so much. It had to be you. Pick it up on May 4th. Go to the launch party. Thank you, Georgia. You are such an inspiration. This is why I like to do, this is why I decided to do this. Like, your eyes were lighting up when you were telling me your story. And I just love hearing about all of that. So anyway,
this was so fun. Thank you so much. It was lovely to see you and chat about writing.
Yeah. All right. See you later. Bye.